As 2024 begins to wrap up, I want to catch up on as many of this year's horror movie releases as possible before I make my annual year in review video. So for this week's video, I decided to watch In a Violent Nature, a film I've heard many things about. The film debuted in the midnight section of the Sundance Film Festival before receiving a theatrical release that garnered over $4.5 million at the box office and was released on Shudder on September 13th. The film received mostly positive critical reception and has a sequel already announced. Chris Nash wrote and directed it in his feature film directorial debut. The film stars Ry Barrett, Andrea Pavlovich, and Cameron Love. It was filmed in Canada and distributed by IFC Films. With this very brief context laid out, let's review In a Violent Nature. The film attempts to be what has been dubbed an ambient slasher. It takes place in the woods and follows the perspective of the killer in a style that attempts to emulate a nature documentary. This style, however, is frequently discarded in favor of leaning on the crutches of the slasher subgenre, attempting to give the fans what they want, scared to death of boring them. This makes the film tonally inconsistent and lacking that slow cinema feel it's trying to emulate. We get lots of moments of Johnny, the masked killer in the film, walking through the woods and stalking his prey. In the beginning, I was intrigued by the concept, and there was some clever uses of it early on. However, very quickly, the commitment to this concept is shown to waver. Instead of lingering in these moments that typically wouldn't be shown, we move quickly through to the killing, which is admirably done with some cool practical effects. These moments feel empty, they're cool kills that ultimately feel like attempts at satiating gorehounds, showcasing that they love the genre and love practical effects, which should be right at my wheelhouse, but it just feels so empty and ineffective. I don't care for the victims or the killer. I can't even appreciate the style since it's so haphazardly discarded at a moment's notice. The style itself is also inconsistent in its execution when they do allow for the slower moments. The cinematography varies wildly between well-composed shots of the beautiful nature backdrop and student film level shots that take you out of the film. This is unfortunate as there are some pretty looking moments in the film, but they don't linger on them. There is an overall through line of lack of confidence that hurts it. There is a constant sense of the creators wanting desperately to follow all the prescribed pathways for the subgenre with the clever twist of the perspective. I wish they would have taken more chances and lingered more in the slow moments, giving us more time to take it all in, to feel more like the nature documentary they were going for, rather than a cheap slasher film. This is also hurt by the editing, which follows those same struggles, constantly cutting away from cool shots for no reason, lingering on lesser quality shots again for no reason. There seems to be no rhyme or reason, nor any consistent methodology to the editing, and we get cuts just to cut, which hurts the flow of the film. There is an immersion that this film needed to build up and maintain, but the editing hurts this goal. Another major element that takes you out of the film is the bad acting. Every actor struggles to deliver their poorly written lines, breaking the immersion through the inability to embody even the most basic, stereotypical slasher victims. It also showcases why they shouldn't have kept going back to them. The whole film should have been from Johnny's perspective. It would have hidden the elements of the film that betray the low-budget nature of the whole project. When you have serious restraints on your film, you have to make it look like a stylistic choice. You can't just make a generic film. You must lean into what you're trying to do differently. This film has moments that showcase the potential of the concept, but they cut away in fear of the audience, which is the exact wrong approach. The acting is also poor with the killer, which is an essential part of any slasher. You don't just get the tallest guy you can find, because there is so much more subtlety in a good slasher performance than will probably ever properly be acknowledged by critics. There is a reason that Kane Hodder and Derek Mears are so much better and fun to watch as Jason than the other actors. There are lots of small moments, movements, and elements that need to be nailed by the actor, and in this film the killer feels like a generic stunt actor behind the mask. As I said, I appreciate some of the kills and practical effects. I can tell that Nash is a fan of the genre, but ultimately that's what this whole project feels like, is a slightly higher budget Friday the 13th fan film. It's made me appreciate the Friday films much more due to the professional execution that they always had. I hope the sequel leans more into the concept, losing the elements that hamper the immersion and fully committing to a nature documentary feel. The potential for some cool stock and slash sequences exists within this type of film, it just needs to be properly executed. I will continue to watch through some of the 2024 horror films that I've missed in the coming month, and will probably review some of them on this channel. That's all for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and see you next week.